Hello everyone, today we are going to work on the blower assembly. So this is what we're going to have, and we're going to use SolidWorks to assemble all the parts that we made previously and get this assembly. And in this part I made the motor to be fixed, so I bring the motor first. And there are two parts. They are underdefined. One is the motor shaft, because the shaft is supposed to move in reality. So this is underdefined, has a minus sign in front. And the other one is the blower. So in reality, the blower should be able to rotate as well. So this is has a minus sign in front as well. But other three parts, they should be fully defined, no minus sign in front. So now let's try working on this part. So I'm going to close this part, and I don't save it. And now I am going to start the new one. So I'm going to start a new and say assembly and say OK for that. And the units here won't matter because we already have all parts. So let me go to the part. So like I said, I am going to bring the motor as the fixed part. So this is too small. So let's make it bigger. Right click up the mouse and do view and do extra large icon, so I can see each part is which part is which. So I'm going to bring the motor first and say open and drag it down here as my first part. And the first part is always the fixed part. And the next one, I'm going to bring the shaft. So I go insert components and find out the shaft, the motor shaft, and say open for that and drop it down here. And now we are going to work on the assembly. So as you can see, so the shaft is a little bit different. So when you assemble, make sure the side that has a groove, you put this side on the inside of the motor. Okay, so put this part, this side inside of the motor. So as our first mate, I am going to make this surface at the end that is coincident with the surface in the back. Then I am going to make these two circles to be concentric. So that's about the shaft. So let's go ahead and do that. So first of all, I add a mate and select the bottom surface here, and also select this surface. So like I said, it has a groove. Make sure you select the right side instead of the other side. So select the surface here as well and make them to be coincident. So apparently this is the wrong direction because the shaft is supposed to go the other way. So I am going to flip the direction and say OK for that. And after this, as you can see, the surfaces, they are coincident. So I can only move it in this way, but it's always landed up with the surface. And the next mate, I am going to make these two circles to be concentric. So instead of selecting the circle only, I am going to select the body of the part instead of just a circle. So I select the body and say concentric and say OK with that and say OK with the mate. So after you assembled that, as I said, the shaft is supposed to be able to rotate, so there is a minus sign in front. If you really don't like the minus sign and wants to get rid of that, well, what you could do is you right click of the motor shaft and I'm sorry. So first of all, you expand the motor shaft and go to mates in assembly, and you just did a concentric here. Okay, so you should have a concentric, and click that and edit the concentric you just made, and there is an option set lock rotation. Okay, lock rotation. So you could check that and say OK with that. And by doing that, the minus sign will be disappeared. okay, because you fix the rotation, okay. But in this moment, we'll just leave it open because the shaft is supposed to be able to rotate, okay. So this is a part, and we had two parts here, and now it's a good time for us to save the work. So I click save and save the assembly, and let's name it as a blower assembly, O-W-E-R, blower, A-S-S-E-M-B-R-E. So blower assembled, I'm sorry, B-R-Y, blower assembly, and save it. Okay, so next one, we are going to bring the cover. Okay, so insert component here, and let's bring in the cover. So this part, the cover, and say okay, and let's drop it down here. And now I am going to make a few mates as well. So first of all, I'm going to make the bottom piece and this surface to be coincident. Then I am going to make this hole that is concentric with this hole, and this hole that is concentric with this hole. So 3 mates. So let's go ahead and do that part. So I'm going to do mate and select the surface at the bottom, and select this surface as well, and make them to be coincident, which is correct, and say okay for that. And now let's look at the part, and I am going to select this hole to here. So you could select this to here as well, but so it's up to you. I would think put this one here and make this thing kind of a parallel. It looks kind of nice, but it doesn't matter. So anyway, I am going to select this hole. And this hole, make sure you select the body instead of just the circle, and do a concentric and say okay for that. And let's add another one, so which this body here and this body here, and they're concentric, say okay as well. So by doing this too, this one is going to be fixed automatically. So the part should be fully defined. Okay, the part is fully defined right now. Okay, now let's add one more part. So at this moment, I'm going to bring the lower housing first. So insert component here. So I'm going to bring the lower housing, which is this part, and open it and put it down here. And after that, I am going to bring another component, that is the blower. So insert the component and select the blower and open that and drag it down here. So this blower, so this part is supposed to be connected on the shaft. Okay, connected on the shaft. And also, so this blower is supposed to be assembled into this cavity. So it's supposed to be in the middle. So this dimension is actually a little bit smaller than the housing, so the blower can rotate. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to put the blower in the center of the lower house. So no coincidence, because like I said, the height from the top to the bottom is going to be slightly smaller than the distance from here to the side, so the blower can rotate. So I'm going to put the blower in the middle of the lower housing. Okay, so I'm going to add mates, and besides that, I am going to make those two holes to be concentric. Then the part should be fully defined. Oh no, it's not fully defined because the blower should be able to rotate. Okay, so anyway, so I am going to add a mate. So first of all, I am going to do advanced mates. Okay, advanced mates, because like I said, I'm trying to put the blower in the middle of the lower housing. So I'm going to select the width. Okay, select the width and click that. And now I need to select the two type of a surface. So the first one, the width selection, I'm going to select this face, okay, the inside one, and also the face on the other side of the lower housing, and that's for that. And the next one, I'm going to select another two faces to be mating together. So I'm going to select, since I selected this surface first, okay, so I want this surface that is close to this surface, okay, so I'm going to select this surface first and this surface second, okay, so they are going to mate together. So make sure it's centered, okay, the centered, then say okay for this. Okay, so by doing this, as you can see, it's in the middle, so it's hard to say right now. So I'm going to add another mate, which is the concentric. So select this part, this surface, as well as the surface of this part, and it's going to be concentric. Okay, does not recognize. So let me take this out. Oh, it's still under advanced possibly. Okay, so I'm going to say no for that and do a mate again and select the I'm going to select the hole this time. So this hole and this surface here, and they are concentric. So if you want to lock that, you could, but I don't think you need to, and say okay for that. And now this is the part. And the next step, we are going to make the shaft. So the surface of this end that is coincident with this surface. Okay, make those two surfaces to be coincident. So I'm going to select the edge of, the end of the shaft and select the surface. So the surface here, and select this tool. So apparently the direction is incorrect, so I'm going to flip that. So it's flipped in this way. Looks right so far. And let's say coincident and say okay for that. And the next thing, I'm going to make the shaft and the hole to be concentric. So I'm select the body of the shaft and select the body of the hole and say they are concentric. And like I said, I don't need to lock that. If you want to, then you could. And now it's locked. Okay, so the part could rotate in this way, which is not supposed to be. Okay, so now I am going to select those two surfaces. Okay, make them to be parallel because the part is not supposed to rotate in this way. Okay, it's not supposed to rotate in this way. So now I am going to select this surface as well as this surface and make them to be parallel. Okay, so when you do parallel, make sure they are in the right direction because parallel could be flip up. If it does, then you could flip the alignment. So right now it looks good and say okay. Oh, I'm sorry, it's supposed to be parallel. Okay, it's supposed to be parallel. Like I said, okay, it's in the wrong direction. So let's see if we can flip that. So if you click here, make alignment, then you could flip the directions. Okay, now this is a good size. So I say okay for this. And now let's say okay for the mate. Say if it's fully defined. So the lower housing, okay, so it's fully defined, which is good. And let's save the work. In the next part, I'm going to bring in the upper housing. Okay, so insert component and find the upper housing, which is this part, and open it and drop it down here. And I'm going to add a few mates. So first of all, I'm going to make the bottom surface that is coincident with this surface. Then I'm going to make two holes that are concentric, and also those two holes to be concentric. So let's go ahead and add mates for them. So select the surface, also the bottom surface, and they are concentric. They are coincident, which is correct. Then now I'm going to select this hole here, the body, and the body of the hole, this one as well, and see they're concentric, and say OK for that. So by doing this, so the part can still rotate. So we need to select another hole to make them to be concentric. So let's select this hole here and this hole here, and they are concentric, and so say OK for the part, and say OK for the mate. So the upper housing is fully defined as well. So by doing that, so only the blower and the motor, they are underdefined because they are supposed to be able to rotate. Okay, they are supposed to be able to rotate. And other parts, they should be fully defined. Okay, so after you're done, then save it in a good view and save the part and rebuild it and save the document. And that's all we have for the blower assembly. And thank you for watching the video. We'll see you next time. Bye.